So moving forward just a little bit, we just talked a little bit as a recap about how this interviewee wasn't working and how she had to build a support network in her mid-40s and how that was tough for her. So we're going to move forward to what I'm going to call a timeline of events. And I want to point out the picture in the bottom right because I think it really goes along a little bit with what we're saying. And it says, life teaches us to make good use of time while time teaches us the value of life. And I think that is really important because my interviewee went through a lot of trauma, and it started and it was just so tough for her to overcome, and the trauma lasted for her, what did she say? I think she said about 5 years, I think she had said, just overcoming that and being able to be herself again. So I want to talk a little bit about what oppression is. And I think it's something that can very much shape anybody's life, and it definitely shaped my interviewee's life. And oppression is just a long, drawn-out process of being at a disadvantage. And my interviewee was definitely at a disadvantage. She had to start from scratch at a later point in her life. And yes, some people have to do that, but not everybody does. And I definitely consider what she went through oppression, and I definitely think that she overcame it. I think it's important to recognize, though, that she didn't overcome it without, at times, mentally shutting down and not being able to get out of bed some mornings, she said. She said some mornings she just struggled to get up because she just didn't want to deal with it that day. And I think it's important to recognize that that's okay. It's not something that we all have to get through the same way. Oppression is something that we all handle very differently. So I think looking at this from multiple aspects and from multiple different points of view, I think we really have to understand that my interviewee was really trying to find the missing piece in her life for a very long time. And she lacked family. Her mother had passed away about 5 years prior to all of this happening. And then 5 years after her mother passes away, she finds out her husband's having an affair, and that leads to a divorce. So right there is showing that she's lacking somebody to turn to and lacking somebody to lean on. I think in regards to community, she had to form new friendships. It was very hard, going to the same friendships and questions coming, well, what happened and where's your husband and stuff like that. And for her, forming those friendships so that they understood her as an individual was just like forming a brand new friendship. Something that did help her overcome this was counseling. And having the ability to go to somebody and say, hey, I can't do this today. I don't know what to do. And I think all of this coming together is finding what she was missing and being able to rebuild herself so that she could be a better person and a better friend and a better family member. And I think that really helped shape who my interviewee is today. So another theory we could apply, aside from Erikson, is Freud's theory of psychosexual development. So his theory is saying that we must overcome the crisis before moving on to the next stage, which I think is very important because I feel like my interviewee did overcome multiple crises to move on to the next stages over and over again. So in this instance, my interviewee would fall in the genital stage, which just means that it's Freud's last stage, and It just kind of incorporates everything, I guess, at the end of somebody's puberty, I guess is the way to put it. It's very hard to find places to fit this interview in because of the trauma, so you really have to kind of squeeze a little bit. But I think the important thing to really focus on right here is the defense mechanisms. One defense mechanism was the intellectualization, which Rogers described in her book as creating an emotional distance. So I think that is seen, and I know that's seen, when my interviewee lost her husband and she pulled back. She created that emotional distance between people because she didn't want to deal with that. And that was her way of dealing with things, was to pull back, which leads us into regression. I feel like they go hand in hand because my interviewee did regress. She regressed to it being okay to not talk to people and not form relationships, which can be seen in younger kids. And I think it's important to realize that having that regression, she had to learn to work through that. And I think that's part of the tough part of what she had to go through. So moving on to limitations, I focused on Erickson. Because I really felt like, it's just finding the right spot to fit her. Like we just talked about with Freud. It doesn't fit. It's not clear cut. There's no real place where it would be, or where she would fall. So I think that was definitely a limitation. I think defining the interviewee's life moments as generativity or versus stagnation, that was the worst part for me because I felt judgmental. I felt like I was judging my interviewee's trauma and the way she reacted to it. And I think her reaction is more than normal. And I think regressing and creating an emotional distance, and I just think all of that is normal to the trauma that she faced. And I feel like Erickson doesn't really, he doesn't encompass all of the trauma and what that could mean for a person's life. So with that said, I just want to say, with everything that Erickson has gone over, he really makes it hard to place a person in one place, one spot. His theory really shows a lot of my interviewee's stagnation, and not so much of her generativity, and not so much of being involved in people's lives because of the trauma that she did face. And if anybody has any questions, they can feel free to refer to any of these articles, and feel free to email me. Thank you.